Here's a question worth sitting with. If you saw two coworkers in the same parking lot tomorrow morning, one stepping out of a brand new luxury SUV and one climbing out of a 10-year-old hatchback,
Could you actually tell which one has more money in the bank? Most people would guess wrong, not slightly wrong, backwards.
Let's call our first guy Dean. Dean is 36, works in sales for a mid-sized tech company, and drives a leased Audi Q5.
Payments around $720 a month. He didn't need the car. His old one ran fine, but when he made manager last year, the lease felt like a promotion he could drive.
Now meet Priya. Same company, different department, makes slightly more than Dean. She drives a 2019 Corolla she bought, used 4 years ago for around $16,000 cash.
There's a parking lot scrape on the rear bumper she's never bothered fixing. Here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. Dean's net worth is barely 5 figures.
Priya's is past 7. Same income, same building, decades apart in actual wealth. What split them apart wasn't a secret stock tip or a rich uncle.
It was a decision they each made the day they bought a car, and then quietly kept making year after year without noticing.
This video is about why so many genuinely wealthy people drive cars that would surprise you, not because they're forced to, but because the way they think about money is fundamentally different
from how most of us were taught to think about it. And the car is where that difference becomes visible.
Let's start with what the data actually says, because it's not subtle.
According to researcher Thomas Stanley's decades-long study of American millionaires, the median price millionaires paid for their most recently acquired vehicle was just $31,367, and for
Decamillionaires, those worth 8 figures or more, it was $41,997.
compare that to right now, the average new car loan payment in America hit $767 a month at the end of 2025, and payments above $1,000 a month now make up nearly 19% of all new financed vehicles.
The average person financing a car today is taking on a heavier monthly burden than the average millionaire spent on their entire vehicle.
Stanley's data also found that Toyota was the single most purchased brand among the millionaires. He studied not Mercedes, not BMW.
And when the Wall Street Journal surveyed people on what kind of car you'd need to look rich, 35% said it would take a vehicle costing at least $75,000.
When Stanley checked that number against his actual millionaire database, more than 90% of them would have failed to qualify as rich by that standard.
The car that looks rich and the person who is rich are almost never the same thing. So why does this keep happening?
Why do so many people sign up for a payment that quietly eats their future? 3 reasons. Let's go through them, because once you see all 3, you can't unsee them in your own spending.
Reason 1, size. A car payment is usually the second biggest line item in a household budget, right behind rent or a mortgage.
When that number balloons by $300 or $400 beyond what a reliable car actually requires, no amount of skipping coffee runs or canceling streaming subscriptions makes up
Difference, you can optimize every small expense in your life and still lose to one oversized car payment.
The car is the boulder. Everything else is gravel. Reason 2, it's automatic. A car loan doesn't ask for your attention every month. It just leaves.
5 years, 6 years, sometimes 7. Your brain stops registering it as a choice and starts treating it as a fixed cost of being alive, like rent or electricity.
Except it isn't fixed. It was one decision made on one afternoon that now runs in the background for the better part of a decade.
Reason 3, and this is the big one, is social signaling. No other purchase broadcasts status as loudly or as constantly as a car.
Your house is seen by your neighbors, your car is seen by everyone, coworkers, strangers in traffic, your date picking you up, your parents when you pull into the driveway.
We've been culturally trained to read a nice car as proof of success, but that read is often exactly backwards.
Let's go back to Dean and Priya, because the math here is brutal in the best way.
Dean's lease costs him roughly $720 a month. plus higher insurance because it's a leased luxury SUV, plus premium gas.
All in, he's spending close to $1, $0.50 a month to drive a car he will never own.
Priya's total cost payment, equivalent insurance, gas, maintenance, runs about $310 a month for a car she owns outright.
That's a gap of roughly $740 a month. Now invest that difference. Just that difference, nothing extra, at a historical average stock market return of around 8% a year for 30 years.
That gap alone grows to somewhere around $1,000,000, not from a side hustle, not from picking the right stock.
From the space between two car payments left alone to compound for 3 decades. The gap in your car payment might be the biggest investment decision you'll never make on purpose.
This isn't just a story about two fictional coworkers either. Look at how actual billionaires drive.
Warren Buffett, one of the richest people alive, has spent years driving a 2014 Cadillac XDS that he bought used with hail damage because fixing cosmetic dents was cheaper than buying new. And
the car still ran perfectly. He still lives in the same Omaha house he bought back in 1958. A man worth well over $100 billion chose a dented car because the dents didn't affect the drive.
That's not a publicity stunt. That's what the psychology of real wealth actually looks like once you strip away the performance.
So let's talk about that performance, because I think this is the part that actually explains the behavior, not just the math.
A car is what researcher Sarah Stanley Fallaw, who has studied wealthy households extensively, calls a financial decision made in anticipation of wealth you don't have yet.
Spending instead of saving for the future, spending as if you've already arrived, makes you dependent on every future paycheck, even a large one.
Dean isn't driving the Audi because he's wealthy. He's driving it because some part of him believes the car proves he's on his way to being wealthy.
But here's the cruelty in that logic. The car doesn't get him closer. It gets him further away.
Every payment that goes to the leasing company is a payment that didn't go toward the thing that would have actually built the life he's trying to signal.
He's previewing a future he's simultaneously making impossible. You can look like you've arrived, or you can actually get there. Rarely both. Now I can already hear the objection, but I need something reliable. Cheap cars break down, you get what you pay for. Fair point, but it doesn't hold up the way you'd think. Consumer Reports reliability rankings consistently put Toyota and Honda near the very top, year after year, the same brands that show up most in millionaire garages.
A well-maintained 4-year-old Camry or Civic isn't a gamble. It's engineered to outlast the loan you'd take out to replace it with something flashier.
Nobody's suggesting you drive a $2,000 car with no inspection history.
The sweet spot wealthy frugal buyers tend to land on is something 2 to 4 years old from a reliable brand, bought with cash or financed conservatively over a short term.
That's not deprivation. That's just skipping the steepest part of the depreciation curve and letting someone else eat that first-year loss.
A new car loses roughly a fifth of its value in year 1 alone. By year 5, it's lost close to 40%.
The new car smell you're paying a premium for evaporates roughly as fast as the value does. Here's what ties this whole video together, and it's bigger than cars.
The vehicle in your driveway is rarely an isolated decision.
It tends to travel with company, an underfunded retirement account, a credit card balance that never quite hits zero, a savings cushion that doesn't exist yet. The car doesn't cause all of that on its own.
But it's often the clearest, most visible symptom of a deeper question. Are you spending to look like you've already won, or are you spending to actually get there?
Change the car, and something in how you see every other dollar tends to shift with it. Dean is 36.
If he traded the lease for a paid-off used car tomorrow and simply invested the monthly difference until retirement, conservative math puts that decision alone somewhere north of $800
150, 0, euro 0 by the
time he's in his 60s, one choice, not a new job, not a windfall, just a different car in the driveway.
Priya already made that choice over a decade ago, and she barely thinks about it anymore.
It became invisible to her, the same way Dean's payment became invisible to him, except hers was quietly building something, and his was quietly draining it.
So here's the real question this video is actually asking. What is your car currently telling your bank account to do every single month?
Is it building or is it bleeding? That's worth checking before your next car payment goes out.
If this kind of breakdown actually shifted how you think about money, hit like. It helps far more people find this kind of video, and it tells me to keep making them.
This is Winds of Thought, and if you're new here, this is exactly the kind of thing we dig into. Subscribe if you want more of it.
The parking lot forgets your car the moment you leave it. Your bank account doesn't. What's the most looks rich, isn't rich, purchase you've ever seen someone make?